floppy disks are a type of storage medium that have been used over the years. Originally made by IBM in the early 1970s, the first batch of floppy disks made at that time only came in 8 inches in length and were largely used as a form of storage medium. Subsequently, the 5¼ inch versions that came around in the later half of the 1970s, first used by the Commodore PET, Apple II, among other 8-bit computers, became standard place, although some computers, especially those in businesses, continued to use the 8-inch variation for up until the 1980s. Usually, floppy disks, although came as a form of putting your data, it eventually became home to use in other forms of video game content over the years. Eventually, attempts to create a more smaller version, later known as the 3½-inch floppy, would go on to be used over the years, first appearing in the Macintosh in 1984 before being used on the Amiga line of products, and eventually being ported over to the IBM-compatible PCs towards the latter half end of the 1980s. By the time the 1990s rolled around, 1.44 megabytes worth of data could be stored on a single floppy disk. However, the advent of the CD-ROM technology in the 1990s allowed for more storage medium to be put on a CD, and slowly but surely floppy disks began to be displaced in favor of CD-ROM technology. Windows 95 in 1995 allowed users to effectively use a CD-ROM to upgrade it from Windows 3.1 for those computers that did have CD-ROM players or those that had ones built into them. Eventually, iMac in 1998 became the first Macintosh to come without a floppy option, eventually showing the decline of floppy disk. Eventually, in 2003, Dell became the first manufacturer or OEM to no longer support floppy disks in its computers, although it's still available as an aftermarket add-on. Although floppy disks are no longer used, it has become the universal safe option for most of Microsoft Office's products. And up until recently, the US government, of all things, continued to use floppy disks as a form of encryption and form of secure media.